Okay, this is our pleat pattern that you can print offline. Hopefully you've already printed it. And I'm going to change my camera here just a hair. There we go. Sorry about that. So the knife pleat, and then we're going to do a box pleat. These again will be on your pattern. You would typically will have cut out your fabric around the pattern, and then you'll need to transfer these onto it. And you can use the same methods we've done before with the tracing paper and the tracing wheel. You could use the ruler and fold your pattern back like we did with the dart. That is definitely not as accurate when you're doing pleats. I've done that method, and as you have more and more pleats on one pattern piece, folding it back is allowing for a lot of errors. So probably the best, most accurate way is to put your tracing paper and use that. I'm going to do a little bit cheaty of a method, and because our fabric is fairly sheer, I can line that top edge right up to there, and I can just trace, kind of see right through there. So we can trace those on using one of our chalks or pencil, but I'm going to use my blue chalk because my white chalk will not show up on it. I'm going to show you my wheel though again. This is that little chalkener. And listen to this thing. It's that great little line. But unfortunately, I have white chalk in there and it doesn't show. So going back to this guy, I'm going to do blue line, and come over here. And pleats are funny. When you pleat a skirt, I've made multiple skirts with the same pattern, and they literally will come out to different lengths or widths all the way around in a circumference around your waist. You know, if you're off just a little quarter of an inch, by the time you double this over, you now just made that garment half an inch larger or smaller. Those small little increments of being off get doubled, and if you do that on 2 or 3 pleats, you could all of a sudden end up with a skirt that's 3 inches bigger than the first one you made. So being accurate on your measurements is really crucial. So make sure you're doing a skirt like that, you have the pins in, those box pleats happen right in the right spot. That being said, because there's so much pleating, you can take in and let out really easily. Skirt's a little tight, you know, drop out a little bit of the pleats in a couple of them. You won't notice any difference, and you will make your skirt fit. I just realized I did not mark the ends. So these are the dots at the ends. This is where I'm going to want to stop stitching. So I'm going to put my little round dots right there. All right, with the knife pleat, it is the solid line. Directions will say fold your solid line to your dotted line. So that means I'm going this direction. So you're going to take your solid line and bring it over to that dotted line. And kind of like the dart, you just want to line those lines right on top of each other. So I can almost put a little press, a little finger press around that line. Go like so. And then we'll put a pin in right along there. And I'll make sure I put another one down here. And the same thing, this one is going to fold along that line. Again, I'll just finger press it. Bring it right over to that other line. And if you look on this pattern, there's kind of a natural little flare. It's a little narrower here than it is at the end. And that's because a skirt normally flares out and has, you know, for your hips. So it's smaller at the waist and flares out in that nice little shape that it gives. All right. And then I'm going to make sure I pin right along there. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the sewing machine. And with this knife pleat, we're going to stitch from the top down to the dot and back stitch at the dot, and then we will show you how to press it to get a knife pleat looking skirt. It's pretty cute. All right, and then to mark a box pleat, you're going to mark all the 3 lines. Typically a box pleat pattern will have a solid and then a dotted line down the middle, which is the center of it. So we want to mark all those. They get really confusing if you do this on like a really long skirt that's going to box pleat all the way around. That's just lots and lots of lines coming at you. So it's kind of good to mark, say, the center line slightly different. Like I'm actually going to do little dots, and then we'll mark this one and this one, and then I'll do dots along here. You could use different colored chalk, would be another option too. And then my little end points like so. And a little easier to actually pin these. You're just going to fold along that line and make sure your pins are hitting the chalk on both ends. Remember, I drew these patterns up, so they're not absolutely perfect, so hopefully the lines connect pretty good. If they are off just a hair, that is my fault, so don't worry about it. But mine are connecting pretty good, so I didn't do too bad of a job. All right, and you'll have something pinned looking like that. And we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew from the top down to the dot. And then after that, it's all about pressing. All right, I think that is pretty good. So we're going to sew from this top down to this dot, like so. Look like that. All right. Okay, this is our knife pleat. So I have pinned it so I can see my chalk line there. Really simple stitch. It's basically just back stitch at the beginning, follow these chalk lines down until you get to the dot at the bottom. Really good back stitch there. If this is a semi-tight skirt, every time you take a step, you'll kind of be pulling on those stitches. You know, the tension is down here, so you want a good back stitch there. Okay, so I stitched that one. I'm going to stitch the other one. And again, if you choose to do a pleated skirt, it's not the most incredibly difficult thing. It takes accurate stitching, accurate marking, and more than anything, it just takes a lot of time. Like you're pleating for, if we ever get back to our classes, you know, you'll be pleating for at least a class period. So just realize that it's more of a time issue, and you can do some of that at home, obviously too, but or we might be completely at home. All right, so I just did those two pleats, and what a knife pleat is that all the pleats are going to go in the same direction. That means if this was a really big piece of fabric that had, say, 20 pleats around it, when you got done here, you would press them all in the same direction. So it knifes its way all the way around the skirt. So I would head to the iron, press these over flat, and then once I have a nice press in them, I will come back and just kind of like that inseam pocket that we did. You don't want to go to all this work, put all these pleats in, and then have one of them flip to the wrong direction. So you're going to run just a base stitch. So change your machine to a nice long basting stitch and guiding on about a 1/2 inch. Run a base across the top. Don't need a back stitch. And that will hold those pleats in the same direction. So that's all the pleats in a knife pleat going that direction. All right, clip this ending part up too. So super cute. Do like the look. All right, the next one is a box pleat. And the box pleat, you sew exactly the same. So I'm going to make sure I get back out of my basting that I was just doing. Back stitch at the beginning. I'm going to stitch down to the point. Again, back stitch at the point really well. Cut those threads. Go over to the other side. Make sure you keep all the other fabric out of your way. You don't accidentally stitch it all together. This happens a lot, and people always wonder what's going on. It's just my starting thread got hooked around the foot. It's like literally under the foot and being drugged. So not a big deal. there. So what is the difference between a box pleat and a knife pleat? Well, that one said I had to bring my lines to the center. So that means these two lines of stitching that we just did, or the two lines that we drew and stitched on, are now going to be pressed down the center like so. So instead of just letting it flop over like we did with the knife pleat, you actually bring that center line and you push it down until it's right down the center of the pleat. So that one is a little bit different. And then same thing, you'll go back to basting, and you'll go to the iron first of all and press that over, and then baste all these into position. You don't want them to move while you're constructing your garment, so everything gets basted. And then what it is once you press this, you'll press it in the open all the way down. This is one that when it opens up, you have like a little pleat on each side. So I'll head over to the iron and put an iron in and press on that. You'll hopefully see that a little clearer. Maybe something like that, versus the knife plate that just all flops to one side when you've got these pressed all the way in. It just opens. All right. Okay, so we're at the iron with the knife pleat. So they've been stitched like that. I'm going to press them over, and I'm not going to press all the way down because I would want my skirt not to be pleated all or pressed all the way in that one direction. So one direction opens up like so. That right there would be a knife pleat. Next one is our box pleat. A little trickier to press. You want to press them right down so that center line that we drew is right there, and then I'll continue it down a little bit. They always remind me of cheerleading skirts, right? I had a knife pleat skirt, then I had a box pleat, and you'd see like a different color on the inside of the box pleat because they would run panels of color. I've had a student in our class do that. So this one opens up and it's even on each side. So that is a box pleat.